So we've looked at disparities in lifespan or things like that, and across the world, giving you a few examples of a few other countries, but I want to show you where longevity works here. This I got a couple of 3 years ago or so, so it may have changed a little bit, but and not too far apart proximity here. Fairfax County has men living 81 years here, but in one of the poorest counties in the nation, McDowell County, with 100% white population, 64 years of age. And why would I go out of my way to say all white population? Because poverty and health trends are not necessarily because of if persons are white or black or Native Americans. Sometimes geography there just is not good. It's too remote. It's too, poor. And the same kinds of factors that are driving those populations in Africa and Asia, like I'd mentioned, some of those same factors actually happen here. This next one is for women. If I can get it to progress, you'd see for women, 85 years is the longevity for women in Marin County, California, but not too far away from that county in West Virginia is Perry County, where they only live 72 years. So again, a distance from hospitals and doctors, affordable health care, medicines, and the like. Even could be the environment in which they live, of clean air and water, good access to foods. We'll talk about food deserts later this semester, where do people even have access to healthful foods? I didn't say healthy foods. That's a sticking point for me. Healthy foods would be wearing spandex in the gym. Healthful foods are what we ingest. I'm sorry we don't use that word anymore. All right, done. If we look at it per the states here, at 74 life expectancy, there you see Mississippi. And it's racked with poverty. It's on the Gulf Coast, which means hurricanes are a problem. But then look at Florida, same thing. So it has to do with state government, poverty, lack of jobs. Race is in some ways a factor, but this has some counties here where black population is quite large, but there's still minorities in that state. White people are still predominant. We see for Tennessee, it's 76 years. I don't think I'll make it that long. I feel too bad already. And but here we are in the deep South. We were talking about foods earlier. I know I drink too much sometimes, and I shouldn't be eating pork rinds, but they're good. So I understand that I might shave some years off of my life. I was offered a job. I got to tell you this. My favorite state is Colorado. I'm trying to show it to you here, but I can't get my deadgum pointer. Okay, here we go. Colorado here. This place is absolutely beautiful. Through Denver, and I got a job offer outside of Denver at a community college. It just wasn't enough money. We had a second child on the way, and I would have taken it. I love the people there. There's so much outdoors. I don't care if it's skiing in winter or biking in the summer. It's just a beautiful place to be. And part of me wishes I had taken, the job and just made it work. But that said, look at all the exercise I just said. Having fun is a healthy lifestyle. And consider the foods that they are going to eat. Now consider the people in the South are eating lots of fast foods with too much, fat, sugar, and salt in it. So it would make sense why you have those health factors. Now, this is showing you the lifespan. The red cities, the red places are the lowest 20, and the green places is the high 20. So there's 1, 2, 3. There's 6 in Colorado, 2 or 3 in California around the Bay Area. You've got 3 around Washington D.C. A couple in Alaska. I made this map. I reconfigured this map. I didn't make the map. I reconfigured it, but didn't even pay attention to that last night. But look at poor West Virginia and Kentucky. Look at Mississippi and Arkansas. Look at North and South Dakota. These are bad. These are places of bad geography. And if you're from Kentucky, don't get your feelings hurt. I don't mean it like that. But again, all those factors I've looked at play a role in shortening lifespan. And so it doesn't matter if you're white or black or Indian living on a reservation in Lakota. These are Sioux Indians. It's remote. It's poor. When I took our students, we took our students on a field studies course. I and a geologist. We team taught a course out there. We were in the Navajo Nation, and we kept seeing big billboards. Don't try, smoke meth. Please don't do that. And you know, that's what depressed community of poverty with no positive outlook on life. That's what they do. They resort to drugs, and that's unfortunately what happens in a lot of these places. Now, I did want to tell you about this as well. We talked about sterilizing people. This is a great book, Imbeciles. It's about Carrie Buck. She was a child of a mother who had her out of wedlock, and the way the states looked at it is that these feeble-minded people shouldn't be allowed to procreate. It's not in their best interest, and it certainly isn't in the best interest of the country. And so when she got pregnant, the child of an unwed mother had a child, they sterilized her. And the abomination, if you ask me about this in this book, is that the highest court in the land didn't see this eugenics as a problem. So our Supreme Court should be the last best hope for people forcibly sterilized, and they did her wrong. And let me tell you something, it wasn't her fault. She was taken in, adopted, if you will, by a family, a good, upstanding family, I should say. You should read the book. Don't just listen to me. I read it years ago, so I might be forgetting a few things. But they used her basically like a maid in the house. She got to eat. She got a place to live, but they used her as workforce. And one of their relatives, maybe a cousin or something, staying over in the summer, maybe a nephew, he raped her. That's why she had a child out of wedlock. And so without even bothering to find out more about it, this is what happens to people who are poor and don't have a voice. If I can afford a lawyer, I'm going to win if you're too poor to afford one. And so we even have that here in the best country on planet Earth. I think we aspire to great things, but not always do we do great things or do right things. Speaking of unwed mothers, I wanted you to see this, because I saw this story back in 2012, as you see, with all these born out of wedlock babies. And you wouldn't think it in Catholic countries like Latin America. I'd tell you this, yes, they're Catholic, but they're not Catholic zombies. The women there, families, are starting to say, they did years ago, look, Pope, I know you don't want us to use birth control, that God gives us the number of children he wants us to have, but unless you're willing, Mr. Pope, to come here and help me take care of these kids, I'm not having them. Okay? Also, how laws, this is what I'm driving at with onerous marriage laws. Now people are saying, no, we're just not going to get married because of trying to get a divorce at some point, or all the things that you got to go through. And I found this across Europe too. People are making statements to each other saying, yeah, we're happily together, we're spouses, but we don't have to be married in the traditional sense in front of God and Jesus and Christ and Christians. They don't think that way. And there's a lot of mitigating circumstances that goes along with that. So imagine how these would play roles. All right, so I'm going to start this. I don't know if I'll finish it, but I want to talk with you about generational Americans. This is not necessarily in your textbook, but I think it's important. So look at the 5 generations here. The baby boomers, working my way up from oldest to most recent. The Gen X, of which I was born in 69, millennials, and then Gen Z. So that should be most of you, unless you're a non-traditional student coming here. But I wanted to tell you, lots of people have talked about these generations and given them markers to say what value or worth they are. Others have commented on them and said, look, you're just stereotyping people. Not everybody within a generation is smart or hardworking or oafish or unkempt or whatever. Okay. What I want to talk about is in generalities without being stereotypes and want how we do think about each other in these generational terms. So this was from the Pew Research Center. But here's the Silent Generation, and one of my favorite comedians or comedy shows is the Golden Girls. If you never watched them, in the 80s, terrible clothes and lots of funny jokes. But they're going to represent my 88-year-old mother. Don't tell her I told you her age here. And she loves to watch them most nights. But if we look at the baby boomers, only recently we've come up with OK Boomer. And this is a generational difference between older people and younger people. I found some different ones, cartoons here of an older doctor, telling his patient, hey, go outside and quit playing video games. Okay, boomer. But it's more than that. It's that these boomers are retiring and the resources that they're going to require for living into an old age, again, with medicines and treatments and whatnot, and how people live their lives. Because when you get to Generation Z, we're starting to find out that y'all might not live as long as other generations. You might not earn as much. This American reality, they were promised the American dream and they went right after it. I don't know what the American dream is. Is it a house and 2.4 kids or whatever they called it, or 2.1 kids is actually the statistical. But this was my generation, Generation X. We were latchkey kids. Both parents worked. I went away for hours and hours on end in the creek, bike riding, playing basketball with my friends. My parents didn't really know where I was until it was dinner time. Now we have a generation coming up that with helicopter parents, everything's planned. Let me back up here. Everything's planned. So this is Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Take a look at Matthew Broderick in his heyday. Great film. Not everybody's highly educated. That makes it seem wrong. But from the research and different things I found in searching this to build these slides, this is the general way in which they talk about my generation. Okay. And mind you, real quick, I just said my mother was 88. My father died many years ago, but they were Depression era parents. I would consider myself rich. Now, I work for the state, so you can find out what my salary is, but I don't spend much money. I still think $20 is a lot of stuff. Like to buy Starbucks coffee, I'm not going to do it. That's ridiculous to pay $5 for a cup of coffee. I grew up with my Depression-era parents' frugality. My mother didn't have electricity until she was a senior in high school. So raised to work hard and be frugal. And I told you I'm traveling the world. I've done that. Yes, that's what I want to do. But I don't spend on a lot of stuff. So I'm just trying to explain me and my generation. I thought this Generation Y, that's what we thought millennials were going to be for a while. And I used this comic from this newspaper out of Quebec, the Journal in Quebec. I thought it was great because of the low pants. And again, when you look at these guys, Strauss and Howe, saying that, millennials are special, sheltered, confident, team-oriented, conventional, pressured, and achieving, does that mean all of them are? No, it doesn't. But nonetheless, do these somehow encapsulate how you as a unit or group think about yourselves? And I think we do tend to think of ourselves in a unit in that way, of the friends that we grew up with, in the time that we grew up. And our music was the best in the 80s. It was the best. We had the worst hairstyles and the worst clothing, but our music kicks ass. Okay? And what is it for Gen Zs? I found this graphic right here, guys. I found it on a marketing website. This is how capitalism works. If we can figure out who Gen Zs are and what they want, how do we make them spend their money? And this is how they organize you. Thus, this is how they market to you. And so I don't know if this is all accurate, but this is a reality in the way even wrongful reality is still reality. So I hope it helps. I spent some time on it. I have more to say, so I'm going to have to come back for another round. So for now, I'll say bye, and I'll see you in the next segment.